The distinction between areolar tissue and fat, or adipose tissue, is somewhat arbitrary. Adipocytes account for most of the volume of adipose tissue, but only a fraction of the volume for areolar tissue. Adipose tissue provides padding, cushions, shocks, acts as an insulator to slow heat loss through the skin, and serves as packing or filler around structures. Adipose tissue is found in the hypodermis, a layer associated with the integument system, which you will learn during Chapter 5, in the eye sockets, and around the kidneys, to name a few locales. Adipocytes are metabolically active. Their lipids are continually being broken down and replaced. Although adipocytes are incapable of dividing, an excess of nutrients can cause the division of mesenchymal cells that can differentiate into more adipocytes. As a result, more adipose tissue results. However, when the person starts to fast, say during a weight loss regimen, the adipocytes merely reduce in size, they are not destroyed. This means that they can easily regain their plump size in no time. The last loose connective tissue category is reticular connective tissue. This tissue consists of reticular fibers, macrophages, and fibroblasts. The fibers of reticular tissue form the stroma of the liver, the spleen, lymph nodes, and bone marrow. The fixed macrophages and fibroblasts of reticular tissue are seldom visible because they are outnumbered by the parenchymal cells, the cells of the organ that perform the organ's function. When looking at dense connective tissue, most of the volume you see is occupied by collagen fibers. Two types of dense connective tissue are found in the body: dense irregular and dense regular. The collagen fibers in dense irregular connective tissue do not form any consistent pattern. Rather, their fibers are interwoven into a meshwork. A photomicrograph of the skin is shown at the top. Below the bright pink staining epithelium, you will notice a large paler pink area. This is dense irregular connective tissue found in the dermis of the skin. Dense irregular connective tissue provides strength and support to areas subjected to stresses from many directions. Next time you see someone wearing a leather jacket, you can say, "Nice dense irregular connective tissue you've got there," because it is the dermis of the skin, the dense irregular connective tissue, that is cured to make leather jackets, and that is part of the reason why they are such durable jackets. Dense regular connective tissue has collagen fibers that are packed tightly and aligned in a parallel fashion to applied forces. Good examples of this type of tissue would be tendons, cords of dense regular connective tissue that attach muscle to bone, aponeuroses, a flat broad tendon, elastic tissue. This has more elastic fibers than collagen, and so the tissue is springy, and this tissue is found underneath transitional epithelia and surrounding respiratory passageways and in walls of blood vessels. And ligaments. These resemble tendons, but connect one bone to another. You will learn more about cartilage tissue when we discuss Chapter 6. For now, I will give a somewhat brief overview of cartilage. Cartilage and bone are considered supporting connective tissues because they provide a strong framework that supports the rest of the body. The matrix contains numerous fibers and deposits of minerals. The matrix of cartilage is a firm gel that contains complex polysaccharides called chondroitin sulfates. These sulfates attach to proteins to form proteoglycans. Mature cartilage cells called chondrocytes are found within the matrix. The cells live in small chambers called lacunae. Cartilage is avascular, so all nutrient and waste product management must occur by diffusion. Cartilage is surrounded by a fibrous perichondrium which consists of two parts: an outer fibrous layer consisting of dense irregular connective tissue and an inner cellular layer. The outer layer provides support, and the inner layer consists of immature cartilage cells called chondroblasts that are important to the growth and maintenance of the cartilage. There are three major types of cartilage, and their physical properties depend on the nature of the matrix. They are shown in the photomicrographs from top to bottom as elastic cartilage, hyaline cartilage, and fibrocartilage. Elastic cartilage contains numerous elastic fibers that make it extremely resilient and flexible. Places in the body where you'd find it include the ear, your epiglottis, and your eustachian tube. The top slide shows you what elastic cartilage looks like. Notice the elastic fibers stained darkly, and the lighter circles are where the chondrocytes live in the lacunae. Hyaline cartilage is the most common type of cartilage. The matrix of hyaline cartilage contains closely packed collagen fibers. Although it is tough but somewhat flexible, this is the weakest type of cartilage. The fibers do not stain well, so they are not always detected under a microscope. That is why students describe the middle slide as looking like raisins in pink jello or raisins in pink stained glass. The, quote, raisins are chondrocytes trapped in lacunae, and the pink portion is the matrix where the collagen fibers would be. You would find hyaline cartilage in the body at the ends of the ribs where they attach to the sternum. These are the costal cartilages, in the larynx, and on the surfaces of the bones within a joint, or articulating cartilage. Lastly, fibrocartilage. It has little ground substance, and the matrix is dominated by collagen fibers. You can see that the pink collagen fibers are densely interwoven. I think it looks like cotton candy with purple sprinkles, making this tissue extremely durable and tough. You would find fibrocartilage between the vertebrae within the vertebral discs and at the pubic symphysis that connects the two pelves. Fibrocartilage resists compression, absorbs shocks, and prevents damaging bone-to-bone contact. We will discuss bone in more detail during Chapter 6, but for right now I will describe a few basic features of bone. The cells found in bone consist of mature osteocytes, immature bone cells called osteoblasts, and cells that break down the bone matrix called osteoclasts. The matrix consists of insoluble crystals of calcium phosphate and calcium carbonate. This creates the mineral component of bone. The fibers consist of primarily collagen fibers that are oriented in concentric circles, and this is the organic portion of bone. The balance between the organic and mineral components of bone gives it truly remarkable properties. The mineral component by itself would cause bone to be strong but brittle. The collagen fibers are weaker but are flexible. In bone, the minerals are organized around the collagen fibers, and the result is a strong, somewhat flexible combination that is resistant to shattering or torsion. The general organization of osseous tissue starts with the Haversian system, or osteon, which is shown within the bracket. At the very center is the central canal where blood and lymph vessels travel along with nerves. So bone is innervated and vascularized. If you break a bone, there will be bleeding and pain involved. Surrounding the central canal are concentric circles, highlighted by the blue circle, called lamellae, which are formed by the collagen and mineral layers. The small dark spots you see in between the lamellae are called lacunae, and this is where the osteocytes that maintain the bone matrix live. The osteocytes have tiny canals that branch from their lacunae, called canaliculi, and these canaliculi provide passageways for the osteocytes to exchange materials from the blood vessels. There are two types of bone: compact bone, which contains blood vessels trapped within the matrix, and spongy bone, which does not. Almost all bone surfaces are covered by periosteum, which is composed of a fibrous outer layer and a cellular inner layer. The periosteum assists in the attachment of a bone to surrounding tissues and to associated tendons and ligaments. The cellular layer assists in bone growth and repairs after injury. Unlike cartilage, bone undergoes extensive remodeling throughout life. Bone grows thicker and stronger with exercise and thin and brittle with inactivity. So, go get some exercise when you're finished with this lecture. Blood and lymph are fluid connective tissues that contain distinctive collections of cells in a fluid matrix. Blood contains blood cells and fragments of cells collectively known as formed elements. 3 types of formed elements exist. 1. Red blood cells, which accounts for roughly half of the blood volume. 2. White blood cells, which include neutrophils, eosinophils, basophils, monocytes, and lymphocytes. 3. Platelets, which are important for blood clotting. Red blood cells are responsible for transporting oxygen and, to a lesser degree, carbon dioxide. White blood cells are important for fighting off infections and disease. The platelets are pieces of a larger cell and really are packages of clotting enzymes surrounded by a cell membrane. Extracellular fluid includes a few major subdivisions, some of which include plasma and interstitial fluid. Plasma is the watery matrix of blood and is normally confined to the blood vessels of the circulatory system. In the capillaries, some of this plasma leaves the vessels and enters the interstitial space to become interstitial fluid and replenishes the nutrients found there for the surrounding cells. Lymph is the interstitial fluid that enters lymphatic vessels, small passageways that return the lymph back to the cardiovascular system. White blood cells are found in the lymphatic system and help fight many infections as the lymph makes its way back to the cardiovascular system. We will discuss blood and all the formed elements in more detail later this semester. Now that you've learned about epithelia and connective tissues, it is time to learn about membranes. Epithelia and connective tissue combine to form membranes. Each membrane consists of an epithelial sheet and an underlying connective tissue layer. Membranes cover and protect other structures and tissues in the body. There are 4 types of membranes. 1. Cutaneous membrane or skin. This membrane covers the surface of the body and consists of keratinized stratified squamous epithelium and an underlying layer of areolar tissue and dense connective tissue. The cutaneous membrane is thick, relatively waterproof, and usually dry. We will discuss the skin, or integument system, in more detail during Chapter 5. 2. Mucous membranes. These membranes line passageways that connect to the exterior of the body. For example, the digestive tract, respiratory tract, urinary tracts, and reproductive tracts. Mucous membranes, or mucosae, which is plural, singular is mucosa, form a barrier that resists invasion from pathogens. In contrast to the cutaneous membranes, these mucosae are kept moist at all times and are lubricated by mucus or other glandular secretions or fluids, for example, urine or semen. The connective tissue underlying the epithelium is an areolar type and is called the lamina propria. The lamina propria is the connection between the epithelium and deeper underlying structures. Blood vessels travel through the lamina propria. 3. Serous membranes. These membranes line the subdivisions of the ventral body cavity as shown here, outlined in pink in the bottom 2 pictures. There are 3 of these serous membranes, each lined with mesothelium supported by areolar tissue. We already learned about these membranes with their cavities in Chapter 1. They are the pleural membranes, which line the pleural cavities and covers the lungs. The peritoneum lines the peritoneal cavity and covers the surfaces of the abdominal organs. And the pericardium lines the pericardial cavity and covers the heart. Remember, the serous membranes are very thin and their visceral components attach to the organ they cover, and their parietal component attaches to the body wall. In between these 2 layers is the fluid formed by the membrane and is important for reducing friction. 4. Lastly, synovial membranes consist of areolar tissue underneath squamous or cuboidal cells. These membranes are found when bones connect one another at joints or articulations. These membranes are found when bones contact one another at joints or articulations. Although the synovial cavities are said to be lined with epithelium, This epithelium is unique and different from traditional epithelium in the following ways. 1. There is no basal lamina or reticular lamina. 2. The cellular layer is incomplete with gaps between cells. 3. The quote, epithelial cells are derived from macrophages and fibroblasts from the connective tissue. The purpose of the synovial membranes is to produce synovial fluid that lubricates the cartilage found in the joint, distribute oxygen and nutrients, and cushions the joint. This concludes our discussion of Chapter 4, the tissues. When we next meet for class, be ready to answer some questions about this lecture.